Yes.
Yeah, GitHub.
GITHUB.
Yep.
Like, if you were to look at GitHub as an open source code repository, that wouldn't be inaccurate. It's sort of what it's been known for. But that would also be like looking at Netflix as a mail order business. GitHub is actually a way to communicate and version ideas. And so looking at the way that you and your library can use that to document where your community is I think where we are headed next. So I recommend always being free with, and I think you would be, the things that you create and putting them on GitHub so that others can use them and improve them. But on top of that, looking at it as a way to document ideas and having people improve it in that way too. And Brian.
Okay, quickly. This is a little different take on following websites and that, but one thing that's really helped me as I'm trying to learn new technology is to set up a proper test environment. So like what Andrew did with you guys yesterday, if you attended that, would be to install a local host on your machine, something that's isolated from the rest of your computer, so you're free to work on it on a local host, mess up, you can just kind of wipe it out, start over again. I see a lot of people with like iMacs and stuff like that, or MacBook Airs and stuff. If you have an old XP computer laptop at home, throw a Linux operating system on there and really see how that works. Just wipe off the XP. You'll learn how to install a Linux OS from an ISO disk. You can actually learn the command line a lot better that way. And then you've got this computer, you can do whatever you want with it. You mess something up, you just reload the OS. It's real easy to start over again. Also, virtual machines are a really good solution for that too. Virtual machine runs an OS inside your OS. It kind of keeps everything siloed from the rest of your content on your machine. So you can experiment with a lot of this new technology. If you want to put a local host for a WordPress site on your machine, you can do that. I've had Drupal on a lot of my machines just on my local OS to experiment and see how stuff works on there. You can even do like an Android emulator that you can hook up to your machine, build an app in Eclipse, which is sort of a software editing software for Android. Yeah, Eclipse. And then you can actually do this emulator, so it'll show what the app looks like on your laptop. So there's all kinds of stuff like this, but building a proper testing environment on a machine is a great place to start and experiment with stuff without worrying about messing up your machine. And then also to expand on Beck's hip-hop reference, I think it's Rap Genius. If you want to track trends, they take the lyrics from rap songs and put them on a graph, and you can kind of see what's trending according to rap lyrics.
And Brian's home phone number is.
Say, let me go real quick. Just if you have digital files that are important in your institution, if you created images or have institutional repositories, make sure and go back and save them in some kind of archival format, PDFA or something like that. Look at TIFF. Because 10 years, 20 years down the line, those things that you created may not be able to be readable by the next thing.
And
so,
no, go ahead.
So with your when you create those things, Word documents, whatever, make sure and save them in something that can be archival use. Okay.
So say that again, and what are they?
PDFA, PDF-A is an archival format of PDF. And it's not, maybe it's not as pretty as a PDF, but it will be, in theory, readable for the rest of eternity. A TIFF as opposed to a JPEG or, something like. But keep that in mind when you create something. Sorry.
No, and that's a really good point.
Take us home.
That's a really good point regarding preservation. So the other important thing is try not to lose information when you store things. So, and so I know that sounds kind of obvious, but the idea is that when you save something as an image, you've lost all that text. So obviously that sucks for me because then I can't read it, but it also isn't good if you want to be able to highlight that later on, or if you want to index it with a search engine 10 years from now. So when you save things, try not to only save them pictorially, but also in formats that maintain the original semantics. I just want to comment on a couple of things we've been talking about to give you a few additional resources. If you aren't comfortable installing an operating system, but you'd like to still play with one, and installing a virtual machine seems a little bit daunting, there are live CDs and live DVDs of these various Linux operating systems. And all that is you can download an image, you can burn it onto a CD, even a thumb drive, or a DVD, and you plug it into your computer, you reboot your computer, it doesn't touch anything on your hard drive. And what it does is it just runs off that CD or off that thumb drive. And then you can play, you can delete things, you can install things, you can do anything you want to do. The second you take that thumb drive out and you reboot your computer, you're back into your old operating system, because it never touches your disk. And so live CDs are a really great way of exploring those things. Regarding GitHub, a lot of you would qualify for their nonprofit status or things like that, where they give you a lot more space in user accounts. So definitely take advantage of that as public institutions. And I encourage all of you to release your code as open source, obviously, and there's great licenses like Creative Commons, GPL, and things like that. If you're interested, I'll be happy to talk to you about that. The last thing I'll mention is Wikipedia. Which is apparently like somewhat controversial. I don't really consider it, but again, I run around with tech geeks all day. My big thing with Wikipedia though is three things. Number one, it's usually my go-to source. But number two, the thing I usually do is I read the page, which is great. Usually the blurb at the top is awesome. Then I look at the references. And it's just a really great springboard for me to take those references and then to see the original source material. Most people fail that second step. And then the third thing with Wikipedia is when you're researching these topics and you want to learn more about them, look at the talk pages. They're really good sometimes. There are people there that are extremely enthusiastic about that particular topic. And then you can see the edits and you can see the revisions. And I think that's something that is very important about the way we treat content now, as opposed to how we did it 10 years ago. Beck mentioned this in terms of versioning. Versioning is a big deal, whether it's for code, whether it's for content, whether it's for presentations that you're making. We're living in a society in which it's a lot easier to version things, and that's very important because it lets us iterate. And the last thing I'll end with is when you're creating things, I tend to follow the concept of just do it. Just do it, put it out there, and then iterate. Silicon Valley has this concept of MVP, minimal viable product. But just get the thing working, get it out there, and then keep iterating on it, and let other people participate as well. That way you're not just paralyzed by decision making for a year, and then you don't have anything to show for it.
Seema, how important is it for us, HTML5? How important is it for us to learn that?
I think that HTML5 is just a better way of doing the web. I mean, I encourage you guys to author in HTML5 if you're making websites. It's so much easier. It's just, all it is it lets you separate your content from your presentation. That's all HTML5 really does. And it does a really good job of that. And you'll be amazed at the advantages you'll get. You want to put it on an iPhone, you want to put it on Android, you want to put it on a touchscreen. It facilitates so many good things. It's not going to solve all of your problems, but it's a really great thing to put in your toolbox.
We are scheduled till 10:15, and I'm glad that we're sort of, at a comma, because I want to be sure that we have plenty of time for a couple of things. First thing is questions from you. Comments, thoughts.
We are going to miss this so much. Topic.
Questions?
Okay, question to you all, was this worth doing? Did you get something?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. All right, second thing I want to just get your input on, and we talked a little bit about this with the instructors and mentors on Monday night, although the days blend into each other. I think it was Monday night, is that in our program for next year, and there is a program for next year, okay? So I need everyone here to find some folks to apply next year for participant teams, mentors, and instructors. You're all challenged now, right? And one of the things that we talked about next year is at the end of the program, having the teams do a very short something, a video, maybe even a little wiki, some sort of something that would be seed and grow, a source that would allow other libraries, wherever they may be, not necessarily Illinois, but other libraries, take that idea and say, okay, this is how a team in Illinois did this thing. The concept here being that even though 9 months may have seemed like a really long time for all of you, it's not. It's really, really not. And we know that there is a need in our community, as you've heard this morning, to take ideas and run with them and make them happen, right? So all of you have put all of this work into what is essentially a short-term focused project. Could you communicate that in something? A video, a diary, something where other libraries could watch it, get the kernel of the idea, get some contact information. Obviously, this diary, this encapsulation would not last for generations, okay? But could we do something like that where there'd be a record of how to do it? Now, a couple of questions for all of you. Number one, what do you think of this idea? Number two, what do you think in terms of when would you do this? Obviously not today when you're crazed and you're thinking about your presentations, but when would you, and I saw Joan's hand.
We did two things because at our library, given the way our things stay, we are going to push this program forward because we are so grateful to be part of this. We created, as we went along, lessons learned and a toolkit that allows anybody to replicate what we did and or change what we did